Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, a new amp emulation pedal from Strymon, the Iridium. We'll be going through all the features and taking a tour of the sounds that are available with this pedal, but to learn more about the complete Strymon line, visit sweetwater.com. Strymon's new Iridium pedal is designed to take the place of a complete amplifier. It has a preamplifier section that allows you to drive the input into nice distortion or saturation. We also have power amp emulation as well as speaker cab emulation. Now we have 3 different types of amplifiers on board and a total of 9 different impulse response-based cabinet emulations. You can also load your own IRs into the Iridium to customize the sound of it. We've got a ton of features in this compact pedal. Everything from onboard presets to complete Midi control, to expression pedal control, to a variety of different input and output routings. The Iridium works well whether you're using it as a standalone pedal, directly into a PA system, or directly into an audio interface, but it also integrates very well into a pedal board, so you can use all your existing gain pedals, delays, reverbs, all kinds of pedals can be used with this, and it'll sound just like you're routing them through an amplifier. Let's take a tour of the front panel, as well as the 3 amplifiers and the 9 cabinets that are installed inside the Iridium. The Iridium is loaded with DSP processing power, but it's actually a hybrid pedal. It features an analog JFET input, so it feels natural when you're plugged into it with your guitar. You feel like you're plugged into an amplifier. That analog input is augmented with 2 coprocessors inside, one of those being a Shark chip that provides a ton of DSP processing power. Strymon has applied their matrix modeling technology, which is a proprietary technology, to mathematically recreate the response of 3 different amplifiers. They've duplicated the response of all of the circuits, the tubes, the cabinets, the speakers. The entire thing is inside this compact pedal, and you can select it using just the controls on the front panel. You can also store a favorite preset and recall it with a foot switch here, or you can access up to 300 presets using Midi. In addition to the amp and the impulse response-based cabinets, we also have an impulse response room. This is actually a hybrid as well. We've got 256 milliseconds of impulse response that recreate an authentic sounding room, and then for the long tail that you might have in a bigger room, they use an algorithmic reverb process as well. That hybrid approach gives you a wide range of different sounds, and you can actually select among 3 different rooms using the front panel. We'll show you how to do that in just a second. But at its heart, the Iridium is a great sounding and natural feeling amplifier emulator. It makes a great solution for running direct into a PA, or for recording, or for practicing silently. We do have a headphone output as well. As I mentioned, we have 3 different amplifiers inside the Iridium. In the top position, we're accessing a Fender Deluxe. It's a nice clean amplifier, but you can also use the drive control to push it into distortion. Now the cool thing is that they've linked the drive and the level control, so as you turn the gain up, the signal doesn't get louder. It'll compensate automatically and keep things at the proper level for you. If you do need to increase or decrease the level, just turn the knob. You also have a secondary feature that allows you to set the output level of the headphones separately. To show you the sounds in this amplifier, I've set the EQ controls all to 12 o'clock, and I've turned off the room emulation. I've set the gain so we have a nice clean tone coming out of this Fender Deluxe model, and we're set for the first speaker cabinet, which is a vintage Fender CTS impulse response. That's a great emulation of a Fender Deluxe. It sounds very much like my Fender Deluxe that I have at home. Now we can turn the gain up to get some crunch out of that. Really breaks up in a natural, pleasing sounding way. And we can add some room in. Now I've got this set for a fairly large room, and I've turned it up so it's just giving a hint of ambience. It really opens the sound up. The second cabinet is a 12-inch Jensen speaker in a Fender Blues Junior amplifier. Very different sounding from the first speaker. Then we can go to the third cabinet, which is a 2x10 with Jensen speakers. Once again, a very different sounding cabinet. Now remember, you can replace these impulse responses with your own custom impulse responses as well to customize the sound of what's happening inside the Iridium. But with these three choices, you have a wide range of Fender-style tones available right out of the box. As far as tone controls go, we have a bass control, and we have a mid-range control, which of course is not available on a Fender Deluxe. When you set that control to 12 o'clock like I have it here, it's like the hardwired mid-range control inside a Fender Deluxe amplifier. So we can turn that down to scoop the tone even more, or we can boost it up to give us more of a tweet amplifier response. Then of course we also have our treble control. Our second amplifier is a model of a Vox Ac30, a nice chiming top end, and in fact it's called Chime here on the Iridium. Our first speaker cabinet is a vintage 2x12 loaded with Celestion Alnico Blue speakers. Now our EQ controls have changed just a bit. We still have our bass control and our treble control, but the mid-range control has been shifted into being a high cut. As we turn that up, we'll turn down the treble response. So I've got it turned all the way down, which means we're getting maximum brightness out of the amplifier. Our second cabinet is a custom closeback 1x12 loaded with Celestion Alnico Blue speaker. Our third cabinet for this amplifier is a Mesa Boogie 4x12 Halfback. We've got two Black Shadow 12-inch speakers and two EV EVM 12Ls. Now, of course, with this amplifier, we can also turn up the room to bring in a little bit of ambience and open the sound up. And if we bring down that mid-range control, we'll warm up the tone. Strymon has also extended the capabilities of these amplifiers. For example, with the Chime, we've got more gain added on top. Our third amplifier is called Crunch, and it's modeled after a Marshall. Again, we have three different cabinets to choose from. The first is a basket weave 4x12 loaded with greenbacks. Our second cabinet is a custom open back 2x12 loaded with Celestion Vintage 30s. Our third cabinet is really cool. It's a Marshall 8x12 cabinet loaded with Celestion T652 Alnico speakers. As with the Chime model, the Crunch model also has extended gain capabilities. One of the interesting things about the matrix modeling technology is that it's captured the way the tone stacks actually work. All three of the tone stacks respond very differently, but they all do that interactive thing where when you turn down the mid-range control, it affects the treble and the bass. So you can really play with this to dial in exactly the tones that you want. When you've got everything set the way that you want it, the room set, the EQ set, your gain control, your cabinet selections, you can store a preset and access it right here from the front panel with the favorite switch. Simply hold that favorite switch down until it flashes and you've stored the preset. This allows you to go from a clean amplifier. Let's dial something in here quickly. Hit the favorite switch. So you can either have two completely separate amplifiers and jump between them, or you can set things up like a two-channel amplifier. Use the same amplifier model, but set up different gain levels, one for solos and one for rhythm playing. We have a choice of three different room sizes inside the Iridium, and you access those using a secondary function. Simply press and hold the on switch. When it flashes, the color of the LED tells you which room you're on. When you're turned all the way down with the knob, you get a green indicator, and that tells us we're on the smallest room size. As we turn that up, the color changes, and we're at a medium room size. When we turn all the way up, the red LED tells us we're at the largest room size. Press again, and you're back to normal operation with the room size locked in. A big part of what makes the Iridium so cool is all of the control capability that's built in. Now we can route in 3 different ways. You can plug a mono guitar in which case you get a mono or a stereo output depending on how you're connecting the outputs. We can switch to a full stereo input and output, so you could route a stereo signal in and a stereo signal out, and this is great if you're using, for example, a stereo modulation pedal in front of the Iridium. And we can also do what's called summing, where you route a stereo signal in, sum it to mono, and then come back out. There's a switch here on the top panel that allows you to configure that I/O routing. Now we also have an expression MIDI input, and this can be used in several different ways. We can plug a standard expression pedal in, and this allows us to morph between different control settings on the front panel. Or you can set that expression pedal as a volume pedal, and you can place it either in front of the amp or behind the amp but before the room. So you can choose whether you want to affect the level of gain that's coming in or if you want to just control the overall output that's coming out of the pedal. You can also use that expression pedal input to remotely switch the favorite setting on the front panel, or you can use Strymon's Multi-Switch Plus to access 3 more presets by plugging into that jack. Finally, using a MIDI adapter with a TRS connection, you can control all the functions inside the Iridium using MIDI controls, and you can also access up to 300 presets. So if you want to use this in a complex pedal board with all kinds of MIDI routing and MIDI control, you can definitely do it. Finally, we have a USB jack that provides 2 functions for us. The first is it allows you to update the firmware as necessary. But most important, it allows you to run Strymon's Impulse Manager software. That software lets you load impulse responses into the Iridium so you could load in your own custom cabinets. One other thing I'd like to show you is how well the Iridium integrates into a pedal board. So I've got some of my Strymon pedals here. I've got a Riverside overdrive, I've got an El Capistan tape delay, and I've got a Blue Sky reverb. The way I've got this routed is I'm coming out of my Heritage H150 into the Riverside, out of the Riverside overdrive into the input of the Iridium. Then we're coming stereo out of the Iridium into the El Capistan, stereo from the El Cap into the Blue Sky, and then straight into our recorder. So when we go back to our clean setting here, we step on the Riverside. We can turn off this reverb. Access a higher gain tone. Go back to our cleaner light breakup. Bring in reverb from the pedal. Add some tape delay. One more feature that really increases the versatility of the Iridium is that you can bypass the amplifiers and you can bypass the cabinets. So depending on how you're using it, you could route an existing preamplifier you have into the Iridium and just apply the cabinet emulations to get an authentic sound out. You could also do the opposite. You could route the amplifier emulations with no cab simulation into the power amp input on an amplifier. Now the Iridium is not designed to feed into a regular guitar amplifier input, it's not designed to go into an effects loop, but you could route it with the cabinet emulation off into the power amp input on an amplifier if that's supported by your amplifier. With the Iridium on your pedal board, you've added the power of 3 different amplifiers and 9 different cabinets, including custom cabinets if you desire. This lets you dial up exactly the sounds that you want in a very compact space and feed directly into the PA system for a silent stage, hear things through the monitors, monitor through headphones when you're practicing at home, or take it into the studio and get fully produced tracks. It integrates super well with other pedals, plays extremely well with gain pedals, and of course it works well with delays, modulation effects, reverbs, and so on. It's a great solution for creating authentic sounding and feeling amplifier tones. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects. We'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.